So, welcome to this conversation for Vogue. I'm Faye D'Souza. I'm in conversation with the brilliant Sonam Kapoor. Sonam's been kind enough to give us time. 2 weeks to due date.
Two and a half weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for making time for
Not
us
at
to
all.
have this conversation.
I'm so happy to do an interview face to face after I don't even know how many years. When was COVID? 2 years ago?
3 years now. Yeah. And in fact, when I was reading up for this interview, and Vogue thought it would be fun for us to have this chat because I have a 5-month-old, so we've just sort of been through the whole thing. But
technically, our kids would be the same age.
yes, they would. Yeah, they'd be in the same class if you put them in school together.
Yeah.
So the last conversation you had with Vogue, you talked about how you want to start a family, but you're waiting for the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And was this sort of a planned right time thing? Is this a pandemic? I had a pandemic baby. Is this a pandemic baby?
No, so honestly, I got married and we wanted to wait 2 years. And then the pandemic happened. And then I heard lots of stories from a lot of my friends who had a very difficult time during the pandemic, going to the hospital, having their parents with them, and etc. etc. And in India, we're so used to our support system of our moms and our in-laws and you know, like just all of that. You want your mother around. You know, you want your obviously you want your partner to come to the hospital. All these things. And so Anand and I decided we were planning for 2020. And then we were in Delhi at the beginning of the pandemic. We went to his parents' house. And at that point, we just decided together, because we didn't know what COVID was at that point. We didn't understand it. We were just like, let's just wait.
Yeah.
So we waited and waited and waited and this pandemic didn't seem to be going anywhere. And then I remember June. I think my Vogue shoot came out in June, and I must have done my interview 2 months before that. And I remember in June, it was my birthday, and I told my husband, I think it's time. I was like, I don't think we can wait anymore. And they had done all my checkups with like a couple of doctors, like my doctor in India, my doctor in London, and they said, you're fine. You know, we have something called an AMH, which women have. So that's fine. Everything's fine. So just try.
Go ahead.
Just go ahead. We went ahead. By December, we were pregnant, and then I had to start taking progesterone shots because of my age.
Really?
Yeah. So for 3 months, I was taking shots in my thigh, shots in my stomach, shots everywhere, progesterone. It was very hard, and I got COVID the first month of my pregnancy in January. So my first 3 months were a nightmare. I was throwing up, I was sick, I was bedridden, I was taking all these hormones, and it was tough. And we didn't want to.
And you were isolated?
I was, honestly, when I found out I was pregnant, I found out on Christmas Day, which is quite amazing. My husband had COVID on Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in another room, like, we live in a flat, and I was in the other bedroom. We have 2 bedrooms, and we basically Zoomed, and I said, okay, I'm pregnant. We called up our parents, and we're pregnant, and whatever. And then he was like, let's just be careful, because at that time a lot of people in London were getting COVID. And in January, exactly a month later, I started feeling sick, and I had fever, and I had a cold and a cough. And I tested positive for COVID. And I was so scared because I started Googling what happens if you have COVID when you're pregnant. And I was just 1 month pregnant, right?
Yeah.
That's the time where you're not told anybody. You haven't, besides my parents and my sister and his parents and his brother, people didn't really know.
And there's this time in the first few weeks where all of the elders of your family say, don't tell anybody because you don't know. Like it's like it's not real until you cross that first trimester.
Faye, I was 36 when I got pregnant. Your doctor is telling you to do all these tests, so if till all the tests come back, because we are, it's an advanced age pregnancy, that's what they call it.
Actually, my doctor was very kind. She called it a precious pregnancy. I said, I'll take that. Because we went from calling it a geriatric pregnancy.
I don't know, is that kosher to say that?
It's not anymore. It's not anymore. Thank God. My doctors are calling it a precious pregnancy. I said, okay, that's okay. I'll take that. But yeah, it's a scary.
It's scary. So you're doing like all these like DNA tests and all these tests, and fortunately you don't have to put. My mom said like when she had my brother, they had to put like an injection into her stomach and test the amniotic fluid. You don't have to do that anymore. You do a blood test and you find out. So they're like all these like sort of things that at 36 you're like supposed to do. I think after 31, 32 they make you do. And then they tell you have to be careful, you shouldn't get gestational diabetes, you shouldn't get preeclampsia, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And I was like, hang on, I still feel very young. I've got my dad's genes, I look really young. I was like, what is going on? But it was tough the first 3 months because people make you feel like, and I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think it's just, I'm sure you've gone through the same thing, like having your baby at 40 and people saying, oh.
Yeah. No, I read somewhere because I was reading a lot of the books.
We all do.
Yeah. We may be reading too much though. My mom kept telling me, you're reading too much. You need to like tone down. You're just filling your head with unnecessary information. But I read somewhere that a pregnant woman's body becomes public property. Because suddenly everybody has all of this added advice for you, and everybody has comments on your age, and everybody has, they're all telling you to do something or the other. And I discovered as you go through the process, a lot of times the advice is completely contrary.
Yeah.
Someone will tell you to do one thing and somebody else will tell you to do the exact opposite. And it's even more with the baby. There's a pacifier, there's a thumb, there's a breastfeeding, there's this, that, there's all of this. So did you find a lot of that hit at you as well?
Not really, because my mom is quite like easygoing, and so is my dad, and my mother-in-law is like even more easygoing. I'm like super blessed to have a mother-in-law like her. She's just like, just be happy, just eat whatever you want. She's not like one of those mother-in-laws who's like, ye bhi khana padega.
Yeah.
Like she's more concerned about my health than she is about the baby's health, right? Like when I was sick, she was like, you need to be healthy. She's like very, I think because she's very highly educated, my mother-in-law. Usually I know these kind of, this, you feel like, so the elders in my family were very easy, super easygoing. So I didn't get that from my mom-in-law or my mom. My dad has no clue. And my father-in-law is also like, oh, amazing, you're pregnant. Let's talk about work. So it's not like, it wasn't like that. And some of my friends have had kids, and I think they relate, and they weren't giving me, unless I asked them for advice. They would tell me that you need to start, like, do yoga, be active, walk. Like that sort of advice was being given. Don't have sugar.
Yeah.
You don't need to eat for two. That's not a thing.
Yeah, so a lot of this, there is now contrary information to a lot of the old school sort of wisdom that you have to eat for two and you have to eat a lot and you can eat whatever you want. Because I remember my doctor was very strict. She said no sugar.
Yeah.
You cannot risk it.
I didn't want to have sugar.
Okay.
I was like, fortunately I had no cravings, but there are two things that I couldn't have. If I even smell chocolate, I feel like throwing up. And Brussels sprouts. I don't know, it's like the weirdest thing because you don't usually eat Brussels sprouts that much. And I remember somebody made me Brussels sprouts something. And I was like, oh, I usually like Brussels sprouts. Like, you don't have. And then I've had one where I've like literally gone and like thrown up. And I was like, okay, so I can't have Brussels sprouts. Not that I would be seeing them every day in my life. But yeah, so chocolate was something that I can't have smell chocolate.
So I had evening sickness instead of morning sickness. It was really odd. And it happened exactly the time of the evening when I would read the news on YouTube.
Do you think it was evening sickness or just like a reaction to what's happening in the world?
What's happening in the world. So I would sit down and so I would run to the loo and then come back. So my team got really used to it. So we would record the news instead of going live because I had to take so many breaks. and I would be sipping club soda through the whole thing because that was the only thing that would settle my stomach. But now that you say it, it could have been a reaction to what we were reading rather than what we were doing. But did you have to? Were there films lined up that you had to, put pins in and say, "I'm going to come back"?
Yeah. So I had 2 things that I was supposed to do this year, but I'll start them next year. So.
But you are giving yourself a break?
I'm giving myself 6 months till I start. Even though it seems longer because I haven't had a release in like 2 years. But I'm giving myself 6 months if I start shooting.
Yeah. I mean, I remember feeling this whole conflict about should I take time off, should I not take time off, then realizing that I've been working for 20 years and,
You're not working the same amount of time.
Yeah, and you started really early.
I started as an assistant director with Sanjay, and I was with him from the age of 17 to the age of 21.
Yeah.
I turned 18 on his set, and I turned 21 on his set. 22, my film Savio released. So I did I call my university education was on something like Gonzalez movie sets. So I did 2 films with him, right? Black as an assistant director, and Savio as an actor.
And so technically COVID is the first break you have taken.
Yes. No, I shot in COVID.
You shot in COVID?
Yeah. I shot a film produced by Sajoi Ghosh called Blind. I think it's been taken by some online platform. I haven't actually kept abreast of what's happened to the film because I got pregnant. So I shot a film like exactly a year ago. So I think it'll be coming out. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to do anything about it. Yeah.
So have you thought, obviously now in the era of social media and Instagram and things like that, the babies are also
public property?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but we know that's true. But have you decided how you're going to go about that? I mean, for example, Kareena Kapoor Khan has decided it's gone a more public way, whereas Anushka and Gerhart have chosen not to sort of put their child on social media.
So my mom kept my sister, my brother, and I very out of the public eye when we were growing up. Nobody knew what we looked like. Nobody had any idea. Even though one of my closest uncles, like somebody who's literally my godfather's Khalma, he was filmfare and stuff like that. I was surrounded by the media, but I wasn't ever. It was a very different generation.
Yeah. You never published.
I wasn't published unless it was something that maybe Bhavna auntie wanted to do or your uncle wanted to do or something like that. It was very protective. And I think that gave us a chance at a sort of normal childhood. And then and my dad was, he's still a massive movie star, but at that time he was massive. And he was the Ranbir Kapoor or the Kartik Aaryan or whoever is happening right now's situation. So I was sent away to boarding school because they didn't want me to go to college here, what we call college, right? Like high school, 10th, 11th, 12th. So I was sent away to boarding school at that time, and I think that kind of made me a little more world aware, have a world view of what was going on. I wasn't in this bubble in Bombay. I didn't go to a typical film school, like I didn't go to Maniji or Jamna Bayo Cathedral. I was in Aryavadya Mandir, where there were no movie star kids, and I was kind of embarrassed when my car came and dropped me. So I remember one of my really good friends, who's still a really good friend of mine, I think she's a journalist now, Onkar.
Yes.
I used to get dropped to a house, which was like right next to my school, and then we used to walk to school.
You used to do the car driving up?
We did the car driving up.
So is that your plan with your baby as well? Or is London going to be a quieter sort of?
No, so I live between London and Bombay. I haven't decided whether I'm going to school my child here or in London. I think what I learned in my school, I did ICSE and then I did IB, high school. I really don't know. I think honestly, I haven't thought about where am I going to put my baby to school or what is going to happen or whatever. I haven't really thought about it, to be fair. So I don't know whether I'm going to be educating my child in London or in Bombay, but I definitely know that I feel more at home in India. I feel more at home in Bombay. I'm a proper Bombay girl. Like, I don't think I still call it Bombay by girl, and I don't think I don't know. And my husband has never lived in a city for too long. Like, he lives like 8 years here, some 9 years here, and somewhere, and he went to the American school, and so he's not, he doesn't have any attachments to any city. So he's like, it's your decision. I was like, great. I was like, so I need to decide our future. There's no like contribution on where we're going to stay. I was like, I don't know if I want that kind of autonomy on this situation. So I don't know. I don't know, Faye. Because I feel like, I mean, if I educate my child here, but there are so many kids who have had privacy, you know.
True. I mean, I remember not planning it, but after the baby was born, I just didn't feel the need to put his photograph on social media. Just didn't do it.
I don't know if I don't think I will. I don't think it's just because what you've learned, right?
Yeah.
Like with my mom.
And also, I think that, you know, and this is something I wanted to talk to you about, and we'll get to the fashion in a minute, but you've put out a lot of photographs during the course of your pregnancy, and there is a lot of hate on social media. A lot of it is unnecessary. But do you find yourself having to sort of block it out?
I don't like, it's irrelevant. Honestly, I think the one thing that I have grown out of is reacting to things that I don't need to react to. A lot of it is thankfully because of age, and also because I realized that I live a very charmed life. I come from a place of extreme privilege, and I literally have nothing to complain about. So if someone is sitting there behind their keyboards and saying something negative, it's none of my business, because I am loving my life. And if I want to put something out there, it's to celebrate my body, to celebrate my womanhood. And I always feel like I'm the sort of person who will say that, oh, I have dark circles, I've had PCOS, I've had this, I've had that. And I feel a lot of young girls and young boys kind of get inspired by that and don't feel like
there's no hope.
Or, like I was like 90 kgs and I lost all my weight and I had loose skin and stretch marks and this and that, and I discussed it, and I didn't want it to become like, oh, I'm this like perfect fashionista who fits into sample size. That's not the case. So I always discussed it, and I was like, I don't mind putting out beautiful photos or even not beautiful photos of me pregnant, because what's the big deal?
You did some beautiful photos though.
Yeah.
They were very well received. The photo shoot with Vogue, for example. The Vogue team will be kind enough to put some on the screen when they're talking about it. Gorgeous photographs. Congratulations. Have you, and a lot has been discussed about sort of maternity wear in fashion.
They were shot on film, right? So there's not much you can do to fix it.
But it was just so beautiful. Did you find dressing your body when you're pregnant, different, more fun in terms of fashion? Were there more choices, perhaps, than they were 10 odd years ago?
The first couple of months, this is a tip, girls. First couple of months, wear loose clothes. And then after that, just start wearing tight stuff because it makes you look slimmer.
Actually, so I find that, pregnant women can be divided into the set of people who don't mind the sort of like a crowning of the stomach, those who just like the loose stuff, which is, I'm just more comfortable.
See, I'm very tall and very big. So every time I wore something big, I just looked really big. So I just realized that I have to just wear, depends, like you're a smaller girl, so you can get away with wearing like bigger.
But I love what you were wearing at your bridal shower, at your baby shower, sorry.
Yeah,
it was really
that's my friend Amelia made that for me.
So quickly coming back to the idea of us becoming moms slightly later in life, the dynamics of the family also changes, right? Because we're deeper into our careers, as opposed to maybe a generation ago where women were having babies in their 20s, we're more in control of our lives. You have more confidence in being able to handle a situation, simply from life experience. Do you find that among a lot of your friends right now? Is there a changing trend among, the women around you? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Both my sister-in-laws, my cousins' wives have had baby girls this year, a year before and now, and my friend Pernia's had a baby girl, and they're all around my age, or 1 years older, younger, and none of my friends, my immediate friends, had kids before this. Maybe one friend of mine. Otherwise, everybody's had kids now.
Yeah.
Or is planning on having kids.
And that sort of brings a really nice kinship, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're going through this whole thing
Yeah.
together, so there are people you can identify with what
And
you do.
speak with, and
Yeah.
and like my friend Aisha had a baby very young, and she's my age. So there are some girls who did get married younger and had kids younger, but it's just they're all working. None of them are not working. I don't know many girls who aren't working.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't know. Maybe it's just us. Or I think it's living in Bombay.
Maybe it's living in Bombay. Maybe it's living in Bombay. But do you expect that parts of your career will be different after the baby? You expect it to sort of be the same?
I was always a little picky and a little.
Yeah.
I'm not like really in the rat race. I was doing my own thing. I've always done that. So I don't think that will change. But I do think priorities change, right? Your child becomes your priority. They've not chosen to come into this world. You've decided to get your child into this world. It's your decision. It's a very selfish decision, and you've done this. So yeah, my priorities will change. But I don't think I'll ever stop working.
You've written about this on social media, and we were just talking about the fact that your partner is going to take back leave and you're going to sort of tag team. That's really nice to hear at this point. And is that the piece of advice you have to all the partners going through this with
so my dad was pretty involved. It's also because he was a film actor, so it's like a very cyclical situation, and everybody doesn't have that point where you're shooting non-stop and then you have some time off. Or you can take your child to work. I remember I was on my mom was handling my brother and sister, and I was taken to Ruki Rani set with my father because she was just handle your daughter. Even though we had help and stuff like that, they were pretty, and then later on when we grew up also, my dad has been very involved in our lives. In terms of my career, my work, I talked to him about everything with my sister's career, with my brother. After a certain age, he's been way more involved than my mom. My mom had been very involved when we were growing up. And I think kind of switches to your dad's being involved later on. So I've had that with
your life, yeah?
Yeah, and my parents are true partners. My mom and dad are they had a love marriage, they do everything together. So I just feel I'm a very good example actually of parenting and how to respect yourself and each other with my parents, and I think it's easy to kind of see that and be okay, this is a good blueprint on how to bring up your children with the right values, with the right worldview, to always do the right thing, to be honest, to be kind, loyal, those sort of things. My dad's a great guy, and my mom's an amazing person, so it's just easy to kind of emulate that.
Are they thrilled now to the next phase of grandparents?
My dad's scared. I don't think he sees himself as a grandparent. I think for a long time he didn't see himself as a parent. But I think he was the one who was actually emotional when I told him he was the one, and my mom was they were in Chandigarh. I think my dad was shooting for Juju Geo, and I think they were going to some temples and stuff like that. My dad's quite he's not religious or spiritual or anything, but he's okay. He's okay with everything, He's quite easygoing. So he was there. So he's telling my mom, "What are you going to pray for?" She's I'm just going to pray for the best thing to have. He's I want to pray for a grandchild. And so my mom was "What? Where is my husband and what have you done with him?" And which was nice. And I was telling Anand this. I was like, one of the most amazing things about my dad was he always focused with my sister and I about work and being good with whatever we do. It was never, when are you getting married? Who are you dating?
Yeah.
That was never my dad. Like, there was not even once where he was like, okay, now you're 30 years old, you need to find somebody, you need to get married. Or with my sister, she'd been dating Karan for like 11, 12 years, and he never once said, it's time for you to get married. He said, whenever you're ready, if you want to. You can stay at home with you for the rest of your life. Whatever. It's... So that sort of... We've had that sort of upbringing. It's never been a very typical patriarchal situation.
Sonam, I wish you very, very good luck and lots of love. And we'll keep our ear to the ground for news.
Oh my God. Okay. Terrified.
Thank you for speaking with us, and thank you for your time.